Winter control, I was wondering if you have enough there, because 90K, and other years we've been 115K or 167. I can do that sanding, salting, plowing. Based on this past discussion, I'm kind of,
could make one from the basis.
yeah, it probably does. I would like to know if we have some idea of how many kilometers or meters of paved road we're going to get for a paving budget. Do we have any estimate of that, or can we do so?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Do we have an idea of how many meters or kilometers of paving we will get for a paving budget, as per what your expectations are of the asset management plan?
Mr. Chairman, through you to committee, right now we're averaging about $30 a square meter for resurfacing. That's based on patching generally, because that's the majority of what we've been doing. We haven't done any large paving projects, and any that there was significant paving as part of a larger project, so the CNL water main project, for example. So we will realize some savings from that. I'm going to go down a limb and say we'll get that down under $20 a square meter. It would be a fairly aggressive price.
My question is really, is the intent to pave some roads?
Well, there's a good, that's much more straightforward. Yes.
Yeah, is the intent to pave the roads and using that?
Yes, the intent is to start doing some paving. We have, you will notice the expenses on the revenue line in the 300s, and the revenue side of the 300s, there is the OCIF grant, as well as some of the 2018 allocation from the OCIF grant. So we've been letting that back up because we've got a 5-year window in which to spend those formula-based funds. We've been letting some of that back up, so we've actually got a large enough pool of money to actually start to pave a section of a road. We'd be looking at probably somewhere in and around $150,000 to pave a certain road. So it's a little bit dependent on what happens with our water main breaks and things like that through the year, because it is somewhat dependent on patching. We've gotten off really lightly with patching lately, so that's why we've let this back up a little bit. So the short answer is yes.
For sure there is an interest in most of the public.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't understand for the airport commission, and I might have missed something, because $0 for salaries and there was dollars in previous years. Did I miss something there? That would be
So on page 34 of 61.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, is page 35 of 62. G300, 3600, 7320.
Sorry, yeah, on the one I have, it says page 34.
300.
3600.
Page 34.
Yes, the line that was 50-10, regular salaries and part-time salaries. And it says allocated. I think their salaries are allocated somewhere else, but just.
Sorry, so that's the, I think what, so that we're down into the next section, I think that's actually, perhaps Mr. Staff, who would like to explain, I think that's separate from the airport expenditures, perhaps It's under a section called facility
Oh, right.
operations.
Yeah, I may have
Perhaps,
misread it. Okay.
Staff, you could describe what goes into the facility operations as opposed to
Sure.
roads and so on.
So, Mr. Chairman, through you to committee, I can answer the airport section and Mr. Patterson can answer the other section. The airport commission, municipality owns 8% of the airport, and the board of the airport, they decide, and the agreement that we have, they are allowed to increase the budgeted expense by 5%. If it is less than 5%, then all the 75% of the municipality have to approve an increase. So they stay within the 5%. So that's why what we do, we just take the last year, whatever we have paid, and we add 5% to it, and that's what our next budget is. And you can see that our budget is pretty much bang on all the time, because we increase almost 5% every year. So the other section, Mr. Patterson can answer.
And Mr. Chairman, specifically your question in regards to facility operations?
Yeah, we have a section called facility operations, and again, it's one of the distributed salaries, I guess, so, but if you could just kind of describe what goes into that area.
Certainly. Primarily what you've got in facility operations, we've got approximately 2 employees in there. We have, portions of those 2 employees are in there. Anything from changing filters to on the rooftop units here, to helping with the chemical systems at the pool, to the community center, work down at Public Works Yard. We will try and conduct some of our work, like changing filters and preventative maintenance work at the water and treatment plants, water and sewer treatment plants. So that's primarily what that is. You are seeing a little bit of part-time hours in there as well. The other thing is this is the regular salaries portion is also a place where you could have public works staff could be allocated to this number if they were to go and do some work, if they were to come and repair some drywall here at Town Hall, that kind of thing.
As a simple example, would I believe public works staff are involved in taking the ice out of the arena in the spring. Is that an example of where?
You know, I'm going to retract some of what I said. I'm mistaken. You'll have to excuse me if a little bit of flu or cold medication. I wasn't looking at the number closely enough. So what this is this is our general public works number. So this is a significant portion of our public works foreman will be allocated here. General shop supplies for the public works yard is allocated here. You can see lubrication is one of the numbers that's allocated here. We will have some heat and hydro for some of the buildings down at the yard. Some of those costs are also allocated in the 700s in operations there, because we store all of our grass cutting equipment and so in there. So they're split between the 300s and the 700s.
The last question or comment I had, and I think I'm guessing on this, but under the report that we got, certainly the recreation and cultural services had a very substantial increase. And I believe it was attributed primarily to part-time salaries, which when I went through, I could see that. There wasn't really a lot of comment on why that was, like why suddenly we have fairly substantial part-time salary increases. It was attributed to sort of an error. I was wondering if it was an error in budgeting in the first place, or it had something to do with the minimum wage change, or some combination. I think our cultural and recreational services are very important to the community. it kind of gives a sort of a negative perception of an increase there that, and I wondered if we could have more explanation for that.
Excellent question. Mr. McGee, I'm not sure who's in the best position to discuss that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to defer to the treasurer, and I think Mr. Patterson and Ms. Armstrong will also assist. And her worship is exactly correct for all of the reasons that she identified, and the staff will confirm that.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, through you to committee, yes, absolutely. Our staff salaries were budgeted far less than what actually they ended up. So this budget that you have, it reflects the more accurate number, or it reflects the ground reality. And if you see our additional report that Ms. Armstrong, we went back and she did a huge exercise of plotting all the activities that she is going to run. And then if we run all those activities, employing all those part-time staff, then there will be certain revenue that will be generated. So she captured that number accurately. So if a certain program does not run because we do not have enough people, that salary expense will not happen and the revenue will not be there as well. So this is what Ms. Armstrong has done. Another area that was under budgeted was the hydro. So
Can I ask on the first one, staff salaries were budgeted far less than the actuals, and why was that? I guess that's my question. Why did, because in other years they were lower, and was it the amount of people or was it the minimum wage issue?
Mr. Chairman, through you to committee, 2 or 3 reasons. One reason was that minimum wage, yes, that was not taken into account. The second one was, to be blunt, is it was slashed. So the budget was presented, but at the management level it was just slashed. Actually, the budget we did incur the expenses, so that's what happened.
So I'm wondering, again, if the minimum wage increase was an issue last year, and I probably should know the answer to this question, but did we review the fees for some of those programs to make sure we were covering that increase in expense, or at the very least? Because again, as a personal comment, I would say the fact that we have relatively low-cost programs for a lot of things is something that makes the town attractive, but it's certainly an issue if our staff costs increase significantly. Did we at least review the fees to? And I was going to say I probably should know the answer to that because it happened last year, but
I think there's 2 things on increasing the fees, looking at increasing the fees, and also did we look at programs to help fund the part-time students? Have we looked at that? If there's like federal programs that we can tap into? And I guess those are questions.
sorry. Yes, Ms. McGee.
Mr. Chairman, through you to committee, to answer the last question, federal funding. Yes, federal funding is available, but normally it is so difficult to get, and there is so much paperwork. You apply for 10 students, you get 2 students, and the paper requirement and the reporting requirement is the same for 2 students versus 20 or 50 students. So the staff time that we spend to get $2,000 is not worth it. So that was the rationale. If the province changed their practice or somehow Deep River is haunted by our rich heritage, I would say that they say normally your people there are very rich, so you don't need money. So normally that is our standard answer. The other question was regarding the fees. The fee review happens in April. In this budget, we are just presenting our regular number. pending the council approval our new rates. If there is approval for the new rates, then this definitely increase the revenues.
Thank you. Sorry, I know, well, it's not, well, it certainly is a budget issue. Sorry, Mayor Dion, you looked a little quizzical when the treasurer was talking about the province saying we're rich.
Well, no, it was more the effort to get student programs.
Oh, all right, sorry.
I didn't understand it was that difficult to get funding for students. And that's a question that we could ask staff to look into and see if there's anything has changed in the recent years to make that easier.
I can help out just quickly, Mr. Chairman. Council may remember that approximately 3 years ago, we actually were provided with funding for a summer student, and we applied for 10 students. The ministry was quite categoric that be happy you're getting one, and don't expect it next year.
Federal programs?
Actually, it's provincial, and that's the summer experience through the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. And they said, like, one is the best you're ever going to get, and we have to share this around a very extensive geographic area. So we applied the next year and just didn't even have hope. And it is a very exhaustive, extensive program. So perhaps with the new government, there may be additional programs to support youth employment, and that we'll continually keep our eyes open for that.
Anything further, or?
Not for me, I see Councilor Fitton, you had a comment.
I just
on this.
actually had more of a question in it, really particularly to the question you just asked, just as Mayor Dion had noted that we come up short in most of our programming fundings, almost across the board. That's pretty consistent moving across 2017 to 2018. So if we only under budgeted, and if I pick one line off the top of the page that I was looking at, our budget and our audited numbers in 2017, we were short like $5,700 from the budget to the actuals. Then we're short almost 10. Now I get there's wage increases and stuff in there, but we're continually running short. So are we really reviewing those? Was my question in there as well. I think that's a similar question to being in there. If we're not looking at our fees through our programs adequately, we're basically subsidizing the programs in competition. We're not in competition, but we're subsidizing the program. If that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing. It just seems like every time, for the last couple of years, we've budgeted it and come up short on the budget across the board on those programs. So I do agree that there may be ways, maybe I'm not even thinking that there's still some employment or some wage assistant programs with the employment office across the street from the town hall. They seem to be really willing to have some part-time employees get partially funded, and all you have to do is report their hours fairly weekly, because we do it on a regular basis at the day job.
Sorry, did staff want to make any comment on that, or we'll continue to look for opportunities?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. I think what we were hearing is that the level of subsidy in the programs area was varying and increasing from year over year. And that is true depending upon the uptake in any particular program. What Mrs. Armstrong has tried to do is rationalize that with her staff. Part-time salaries are something that are very extensively utilized in the town of Deep River and Recreation, predominantly because we're saving benefits, we're utilizing younger people within the community. And in a lot of Mrs. Armstrong's programs, there are requirements for certifications, and that required for a lot of the programs she's running, specifically at the pool. So a lot of the pool programs that are run, we are required to use Red Cross, life-saving certified lifeguards to do the programming and also supervise the pool operation. So that's why you see in a lot of cases that line item so high with respect to programs and to the pool salaries, is because those people are certified in Royal Life Saving. Is that a fair and accurate portrayal? But we will look for all opportunities all the time. To Mr. Dean's point, I think Mr. Patterson would elaborate on this as well. If you look at our OMPF funding, which is the Ontario Municipal Partnership funding monies, which used to be the Community Restructuring Fund monies, they're transfer payments to municipalities in different areas with different criteria. There was a shift from the old Community Restructuring Fund monies toward looking at the ability to pay factor and household incomes. And I think Councillor Myers' staff can attest to the fact that when we walk into meetings with ministers, they look at our submission and they say, do you know what your average household income is? It's one of the highest in the nation. And that's one of the things that is penalizing the city of, or the town of Deep River. And you see it in our declining OMPF funding monies. And if you look at the chart Mr. Dean has prepared in the submission, it shows the municipalities in Renfrew County and who's losing revenues and who's gaining revenues. And it's one of the areas that the municipality continues to contest and lobby the provincial government and the federal government that municipalities that have had success and high household incomes in the past shouldn't be penalized. And I think Reeve Doncaster carries this moniker that the higher household incomes are paying more taxes and should get a return on that investment to their communities to reinvest in those communities. They shouldn't be punished for it. So that is one of the challenges that council and the community and staff face on a regular basis in the budgeting process, is that there is a little bit of punishment that goes on, and we have to work harder and work smarter as a result of that situation.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure that it's really necessary, but I'll elaborate or add my own thoughts on that a little bit, because you go back to 2013 in the chart, which shows that we were at $749,000. In fact, if you go back a year or two before that, we were as high as $900,000. Now I know that came after a period. If you go far enough back, there was a period where the town, there was a period of time when the town received only $45,000 in these unconditional type grants. So it has been a big swing, and I certainly I share the concern that the OMPF fund, I'm not sure exactly when the reform took place, but it used to be based on essentially cost factors. So there was a calculation regarding police costs, for example, that kind of thing. And your grant was based on that kind of calculation. Now, one of the main factors they look at are rates of unemployment, social factors essentially, rates of unemployment, your household income, things like that. And personally, I would say I object to that, because the municipality has no access to income. We have no ability to tax income. The province does. We do not. We can only my ridiculous example, and I'll admit it's a ridiculous example, but if Bill Gates moved to town and lived in a $200,000 bungalow, we would only be able to tax him based on a $200,000 bungalow. He alone would crank our average income way out of skew, but we have no ability to tax that. So I think that's a political statement. We object to the way the province has done that, but that's what happened a number of years ago, and the town has been losing out on our grants ever since. And I think we're down, what was the estimate for this year? It's down it's under 300,000, I think, was what the estimate for this year. If I am correct.
273.
273. Although, again, we don't know exactly what that will.
Now, from a good news and an optimistic perspective, Mr. Chairman, we now understand that the current government has no OMPF funding under review. We've received correspondence, the head of council has received correspondence that the OMPF numbers have not been set yet as a result of this review, and we can only be hopeful that the review has been put in place, not as a means to lower it even further or lower it to budgeting for, but to recognize the challenge that municipalities face. And we hope that perhaps at the Roma conference, the Premier will announce that the OMPF levels are being maintained in 2018. Now, I'm not wearing rose-colored glasses, but I hope and remain optimistic that that's the type of announcement municipalities may be hearing later in January at the Roma conference.
Let's vote. Thank you. Okay, so I am cognizant of the time. It's, sorry, did you? No. Okay. Seeing no further, sorry, Councilor Mayor.
We're talking about revenue and stuff, and I discovered here about a month and a half ago, that our tipping fees at Millers Road are not being charged to C&Ls. To my surprise and shock, that we were counting that revenue, we talked about the revenue we were going to receive when ACL was demolishing those buildings. To find out when I found there one day, I paid my $10 tipping fee, that C&L were paying no tipping fees. And we're talking tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars probably. And I don't know how long this has been going on for, but what are we going to do to recover those costs and those tipping fees? Like, we should, as taxpayers, should not be subsidizing the contractor at ACL that's filling their bottom line with our tipping fees that we need to operate that landfill site. Why haven't we been charging them tipping fees that we have all along? And what are we going to do to recover that money? Because that money belongs to the taxpayers of Deep River.
Thank you. I don't want to get into that. I understand, sorry, I'm not trying to dismiss the question. I think it's a fair question. And I'm not sure about, I will ask staff if they have any comment on it. I would only note that I know there's an issue before the planning and public works and planning, whichever way that goes, committee tomorrow night, which has to do with the agreement with C&L. So perhaps, again, I'm not.
Right now, we have a bylaw in place. Until that bylaw is changed, we need to exercise that bylaw and charge the fees that are appropriate to charge there. When I was down there, I'm discovering, I think the truckloads are $160 a truckload. And they say there's an average of 3 truckloads coming in a day for a week, sometimes less, sometimes more. When you do the calculation, I don't know if this has been on for a year, 6 months, 3 years, or whatever. I kind of believe it went on for about 3 years. They haven't been paying any tipping fees from the email I received. So we're talking tens of thousands of dollars, or hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've been giving away that belong to the taxpayers of Deep River. We have a bylaw, we need to enforce it until it's changed. If you want to change it, that's fine, but now it's in place, we need to enforce that and recover those costs that belong to the taxpayers of Deep River, and I'm one of them. And I was ticked when I went down there, I put my $10 in to find out that I said, gee, we're making a lot of money from ACL over the last couple of years, so no, they're not paying no tipping fees. I was shocked.
Mr. McLaren, this isn't to oversee what you said, but my biggest concern with our committee structure, and I am new, is that, you know, we have lots of people, councillors, who have issues with that like this. Can we not make a special meeting for, like, I know that it's supposed to be placed on the regular agenda for the 23rd, and then the public consultation is just before our council meeting. Can we not make a special meeting for the public to bring up issues like this in a special?
Sorry, are you referring to the public meeting for the budget?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Because I mean, there are lots of people with lots of different views, and I don't think we've given any special time. And from what I've seen there, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's no rules or in the procedural bylaw that prevents us from scheduling more meetings from this committee. So that, I just think that at this point, there isn't a lot of time open to people discussing the issues that they currently have.
So item B talks about a date.
Yes, a public meeting regarding the budget is a normal part of the process. I think it's part of our formal budget procedure.
But it's not, it's just before a regular council meeting, correct? So it's
Well,
nothing set aside, it's just like 5 minutes before our meeting. Right? I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it probably is, but then that doesn't mean that the council meeting will have, depending on what comes out of the public meeting, doesn't mean that the budget will pass this.
Right, but I just find it a disconnect to recommend to council, tonight, we're supposed to recommend the budget, right?
Okay,
That's
sorry, I
right.
don't mean to, we're getting into I think what's the
Decision,
next
the
part,
next step,
right,
yeah.
the next step, which are the recommendations that we want to put before council. So,
We have decided those.
Okay, that's.
the committee, we meet as a committee, we have our discussions. All we can do as a committee is make recommendations to council. So we haven't decided anything tonight. We're raising questions, we're asking for information. We will have recommendations about further steps, but really those recommendations, I mean, obviously presenting the next version of the draft to council on January 23rd, obviously council can't approve that until the meeting actually happens, but I mean, beyond that, as far as a public meeting or anything like that, that decision is made by council, so.
So you could,
What could the committee make a meeting?
So let's deal with, so Councilor McLaren has raised a question about the tipping fees, and this is at the Millers Road site. Mr. McGee, would you like to comment?
Absolutely, thank you very much, and Mr. Patterson may also wish to help me out. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the committee, you are correct. There is a report going forward to Planning and Public Works Group with respect to a preliminary update on negotiations that staff are having with Canadian Nuclear Laboratories as the operator of the ACL site and Atomic Energy of Canada Limited. And because they are negotiations, we want to respect ACL and CNL and the discussions that have taken place there. But I think Councillor McLaren raises a good point. The no tipping fees for Atomic Energy of Canada Limited, who is actually the owner of the property, have been in place as long as current staff have been employed with the town of Deep River. Mr. Patterson joining the town prior to me joining the town in 2014. There are a number of areas with respect to waste management where we see opportunities for improvement, Miller Road being one, and Mr. Patterson will confirm that as part of the current fee structure, if you take construction and demolition waste to Miller Road in a car or a minivan, you aren't compelled to pay any fees for disposing of that. But as soon as you use a pickup truck, a trailer, or any type of larger vehicle, there are fees that kick into place. So what we're looking at is bringing forward to council a recommendation for a comprehensive fee structure for that site with a business plan in conjunction with the partners and the stakeholders, and also our engineering consultants looking at the future of that site, the potential for expansion, and what the costs associated with the future operation of Miller Road would be. And Mr. Patterson, if I've missed anything, please feel free to enlighten me.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. Mr. Chairman, through you to committee, I think that the important part of it is the report going to Planning and Public Works meeting tomorrow evening is primarily about the lease agreement, but as part of that, it's the whole picture in terms of our relationship with the ACL and CNL as it relates to Miller Road. So there's information in there about potential expansion, there's information in there about post-closure costs. It's a larger discussion. I think that's important to note. I think another thing that's important to note is To my knowledge, CNL has, or ACL has never paid tipping fees at Miller's Road. Historically, it's not something anybody looked at because all they ever took there were some truckloads of pallets every now and then. And they actually didn't get landfilled there because there's a person who goes to Miller's Road regularly who likes to burn pallets. So they get set aside and then taken away. It's just over a year now that they started bringing significant C&D waste to us. And during that time, there has been ongoing discussions, although not frequent discussions, but ongoing discussions with them about the lease agreement. And in those discussions, at no time has there ever been any discussion to say that, you know, the idea of some kind of, some form of compensation is off the table. That certainly has never been the discussion, and just the opposite has been the discussion generally. What form that takes is not matured in the discussion at this point, and the discussion is still in its infancy. And I think it's important that I think tomorrow night's meeting is going to do a great job of trying to provide a little bit more focused energy in terms of where council wants to go with this discussion with CNL in terms of an agreement around that site, and as it relates to the fee structure in general as well is another part of it. So for the non-CNL side or the non-ACL side.
Can I comment on that? We do have a bylaw in place, as Mr. McGee has stated. People do pay for what they bring in. CNL has no exclusion where they should not be paying themselves. And I question whether ACL or CNL, we may call them at the time, have always paid tipping fees or paid tipping fees. The discussions they've had, which has come to new, I don't know how they started the discussion. They've never been authorized to make any discussions with the ACL or CNL. They've given no direction from council to do that. My understanding is they've had 3 meetings in 3 years. You can call that discussions. Now they're trying to cover, because I discovered by accident that they're not paying tipping fees. Can I go down with my truck and not pay tipping fees? Why not? If ACL can do it, they're bringing in huge truckloads of stuff. We're filling up our landfill site, and the idea of the fees are to pay for the closure of the site, to pay for the ongoing maintenance of the site and stuff. And yet we're turning away hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're asking the taxpayers to absorb that.
Okay, Councilor McLaren, thank you. I think we've heard a response from staff. I think that it's part of an ongoing issue for council to consider. Obviously, the committee meeting tomorrow night is part of that. I believe there was some, I don't know if there's direction, or I believe there will be something further coming to the January 23rd meeting of council. Is that correct?
On Miller Road, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I would just, I always hate, anyway, I'm sorry, I find some of your comments, I think, I'm not quite sure what the word is, unparliamentary, or whatever the word is.
My favorite fact.
You're accusing staff of trying to cover something up or cover themselves, and I think our code of conduct calls on us to treat everyone with respect. I don't find those very respectful comments regarding our staff.
I will leave all those comments.
I don't believe that our staff are trying to cover up anything or cover themselves from any wrongdoing. I don't know what I don't have the historical background, I don't know what this issue is all about, but I believe we're going to hear much more about it. I would like to, if there's no further discussion or questions about specifics, I think we need to deal with the have given us regarding next steps. We did not put those on the table. We only moved the portion of the motion to receive the document, the proposed estimates, the report. So I think now the question is, what do we want to propose going forward? That we as the committee, we have captured, I think, the one specific item regarding the council budget. That's correct. Thank you. We have essentially as part of the report, we have a series of recommendations from staff. We need to work through those to decide if we want to support them or what we want to do at this point. So the first proposed recommendation is that staff be directed to allocate the specific number of $166,000 from the operating budget as a contribution to the capital budget. We didn't really spend much time going through that as a committee. Although perhaps, sorry, does anyone have any, Councilor Rochon or Mayor Dion, do you have any thoughts about that topic? Okay. No, okay. Perhaps Mr. McGee. I guess I'm wondering whether, again, this has been, the budgets have all been presented to us as one package, which is fine. That's the way the calendar kind of operated this year. I know generally there is some advantage to giving early approval to the capital budget, or at least in theory there is, in order to allow staff to start moving forward on some of the capital items and planning projects, etc. I guess I'm wondering, is obviously to do that, the allocation from the general tax levy would have to be part of that. Is that a fair comment?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman, and I believe you are entirely accurate with respect to advancing the capital projects. If no member of council has any issues with the capital as presented, it does assist staff to start getting out to the marketplace. I can tell you that the one area that Mr. Patterson, Mr. Dean, and all staff would like to get out there is on the energy efficiency components, because the sooner we get those projects out there and completed, the more money we're going to be saving in hydro. And Mr. Patterson is going to be working with the local area services through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, such as we did with the streetlight program, to utilize their resources to assist the town of Deep River in retrofitting and availing themselves of those resources. So we believe it would be a strong move. And outside of approving the entire budget, we would recommend that you approve the capital budget and the allocation of those monies to fund the capital budget, and that would get the capital budget in the works and on the rails. So if you want to approve, you would also approve the capital budget as presented, and that the monies
And
be...
that staff be directed to allocate. Oh, I'm not sure that, sorry. So let's set that aside. The second recommendation is the proposed amendments recommended by staff in the report we received be incorporated into the proposed budget for presentation to council on January 23rd. Now, my understanding of that, sorry, that one and the next two, essentially, my understanding of that is that we would be presenting a draft budget to council for further discussion. At that point, it's council's decision whether to refer to finance and administration for further discussion, whether to, well, the normal process would be then to move on to a public meeting, and then for the committee to, well, sorry, there's different ways to do it. The normal process would be for council then to recommend that the draft budget go to a public meeting. Let's put that.
Yes.
So,
Sorry, I guess
Sorry,
if we were to refer this back to council, it would be as it is. And I'm not really comfortable unless we can get the 3.23% increase down. Which we may be able to do by looking at the fees we're charging for programs or like assuming some level of, we're looking at for some level of programs for part-time summer staff or something like that to get that gap down a bit, or if there's any other ways, because right now we're still somewhat above the cost of living, and I'm not really comfortable with that. I understand we may get there with the tax assessment, but I would like to see us get there with the budget. Since we are under budget for this year, and we had some, I believe, some significant expenses this year, and yet we're in the budget.
Councilor Rocha.
I guess my question is more on the process that I'm just not getting. Why would we recommend this to council when we haven't really had not the time, but we haven't had the input or from the public? You know, we have one meeting on an entire budget, and we're supposed to recommend every single, we're supposed to recommend it with all of these alterations. I just don't see how that's possible. Like, I know it's physically possible, but why would we do that?
So
Why are we in
your
such a
question
rush?
is, can we have a public meeting before the council meeting? Is that correct? Can we recommend?
Or can we recommend more of a specialized budget meeting? Like this meeting, there's a lot of information, but there's still other things to go through. You know, we've got some questions out there and there's some things that we want to amend. Can we not have another meeting about that specifically before we recommend to council that we're okay with this? These are just my questions.
We could if we're not comfortable with the information or the answer. Is that correct, Chairman? Or
I just think that this meeting being the day before we're actually trained as councilors, and, you know, I think that that's an issue. I'm not comfortable with it, and that may just be me, but I've been in council for a month, had one meeting, and I'm not comfortable yet with recommending. And I mean, that might be my own issue, but I just don't see how it's not responsible of me, I don't think, or the position that I'm in.
The one, sorry, I understand, I think I understand your reluctance, but on the other hand, what we're, the recommendation to forward the budget to council is not to approve the budget. It is specifically, I mean, now this recommendation refers to the 3.23%, and Mayor Dion, you're saying you're not comfortable with that, I understand that. But it is forwarded to council for review. So we're dealing with it at a committee level. If we support this, referring it back to council, now we don't have to. We can say we want to, as a committee, we can talk about it more next month. But I think there is value in referring it back to council so that really all of council is involved in the decision about the next steps. At this point, we're just making a recommendation for council to review it.
By making that recommendation, are we saying that we are okay with it? We don't have to?
I don't think, sorry, my feeling would be, I don't think we're making any final judgment. We're handing it back to council. You would have, all of us would have exactly the same opportunity at council to make comments about it.
I would think in terms of Councillor Rochon's comment, if we are recommending to go back to council, that I would expect that I'm comfortable with it the way we had discussed it. And maybe I might be comfortable with it given that, you know, my certain questions were answered. I think Councillor Rochon is saying there may be other questions she wants to look into, and so she may not be sending back to council comfortable herself.
Yeah, so that.
Mr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I might assist the committee with a possible recommendation, what we have right now is a motion to receive the information this evening and recommendation to council that the council budget be brought within the 2.5% cost of living. I believe that's all we have at this point, Madam Deputy Clerk. Is that correct?
We wanted to include the direction of staff, recommendation of council to direct staff to reduce the council operation budget.
Yeah, I just mentioned that within the 2.5%. So what I would recommend is that if there's any other recommendations you would like to see made at council, the direction given to amend the budget that was put forward on December 12th. So for instance, all of the recommendations that we're saying, hey, take out the council contingency, lower the sick leave transfer from 80,000 to 50,000, do all of those things. If you're comfortable with all that, recommend it to council and whatever else you would like, those directions to be given by council to staff, and then ask council to refer it back to Finance and Administration to the February committee meeting to look at further refinements if that's what you would like. And then that way, you're not asking council to approve it. Your recommendation is to say, hey, council, we've worked alongside staff and we've looked at these reductions to bring it down to the 3.23, but we also think that we can get it within 2.5. So approve the changes to the proposed budget that we're recommending at this point, but send it back to us and we'll keep looking for improvements and savings. And we'll come back to you maybe in February. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense to me. So what I would suggest is that I understand the value in moving ahead with the capital budget, but I don't think we're feeling comfortable regarding that at this point. I would suggest that we adopt the recommendation that the proposed amendments included in today's report be incorporated into the proposed operating budget. Personally, I would support the recommendation regarding the police services board. I don't know how committee members feel about that.
No, I'm supportive of that recommendation. I would like to see that recommendation on ourselves as well, as a general budget as well. So, do you know what I mean? As a council, yeah, try and also get the 2.5%. So I don't know why it would be different for the police services for the police service.
Sorry, the only comment I have with that is that, if I understood correctly, if the police services board is able to meet that target, that would reduce the municipality's overall
Yes.
limited cost of living.
Yes.
So if the board can do that, then we achieve what? On an overall level, right?
And I'd like us to do the best we can.
Okay. So I think I'm flying by the seat of my answer. I think that we should recommend essentially item B. And item B. And I think all of the talk about all the specifics about the public meeting and obviously tax rate bylaw and provincial download, et cetera, I think all of those can wait for further discussion or further discussion with council. Now, I don't know, sorry, Mr. McGee, are you suggesting that we would build into our recommendation that the budget be presented to council and then referred back to committee?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. So the motion would be to receive that council, the council area budget G110 be brought within line of the 2.5% cost of living, that the police services board, the budget be referred back to them to ask them to find the savings in X amount. The only area we may want to look at there is the date for them to return the budget to. So you may, with extending this, be able to permit them, until February 1st or just before the committee meeting. We could amend that date. And any other changes that you wish, and then ask council and that the proposed budget as amended be referred back to the Finance and Administration Committee for refinements and report back to council with a proposed 2019 operating capital water wastewater budget not exceeding 2.5%. And I think that captures exactly what members I'm hearing would like to see.
Councilor Rocha, you're good with that? Okay. Thank you, that was very well put. Thank you, Mr. McGee. Did we catch all that?
We got it, Mr. Chairman.
So we need, no, we've got a mover and a seconder. I guess we just need to make sure that they're
I'm okay.
good with the amendments, good. Is there any further discussion for tonight? So I think we've got at least a short-term plan. We're accepting some of these changes. We're going to make the request, or we are recommending that council make the request to the Police Services Board, and then we're recommending that we come back to finance for further review to take the best target we can, essentially. Okay. No further discussion. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So, moving on. One down. One down. Item 6.2 is the item that was referred to us from council on December 12th regarding the change in the federal tax exemption. So I guess at the moment, the recommendation, what we have on the table, actually we don't have anything on the table, sorry. I will ask Mayor Dion, would you move that?
Yes, move to be it resolved that the change in 1/3 federal tax exemption for elected officials for Canadian municipalities be received.
Right, so the report we have, sorry, I'm Councilor Rocha, you're good with seconding that, thank you. So the motion we have on the table is simply to receive this report from FCM. Yes, sir. Councilor Rocha.
In the report, it offers 3 suggestions,
Yeah.
and all 3 of them kind of go against our goal to bring council operations down to 2.5%. So I mean, it's kind of deciding what we want to do. It says either increase wages, or do nothing.
Or change the expense policy.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think all 3 go against our goal of reducing council operations. So I think
those that change the the expense policies may not necessarily go against that, correct? Depending on how many personal expenses there are. I guess I'm looking at it from the point of view of just because Revenue Canada changes tax rules on me as a taxpayer doesn't mean that I can suddenly get more revenue. Like my employer doesn't necessarily pay me more. So, I understand there was a reason probably for putting that in place in the first place, and it might have had to do with other pocket expenses or compensation for the time and for the counselors, or some high expenses or something like that. And that's where I think maybe that's the way to handle it, as opposed to suddenly giving that. I think there should be reviews or increases for counselors, and I think there is a standard one, but just because Revenue Canada canceled the baby bonus, I didn't still get more money because I didn't get a baby bonus, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I was looking at it.
Yeah.
I understand that may impact, however, counselors who are longer-term counselors as opposed to myself, and Councilor Rocha, who just driving not realizing it's changed.
No, Councilor Rocha?
now I do feel so.
Yeah, no, I'm actually perhaps that, I mean, if we were going to take any action, I think that perhaps what we might want to do or consider, and I'm not suggesting that tonight, but perhaps what we would want to do or consider is actually do a council remuneration review. And the way that the county did that last year was to have a citizens panel make recommendations. But certainly I'm not looking for any change in
That's what
remuneration based on
my understanding is that that's been done, that several of those probably.
That they're doing
Citizen panel.
the citizen panel review.
Yeah, that's- that's something we could look at.
But for tonight, I think our sounds like we're content to simply receive the report. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor? That's carried. So our final item of business is item 6.3 regarding the policy for pregnancy and parental leave. Councilor Rochelle, would you feel comfortable moving that?
Be it resolved that report number 2019 CA001 entitled Pregnancy and Parental Leave members of the council be received, and that the Finance and Administration Committee recommends to council that the proposed pregnancy and parental leave members of the council policy attached to this report as attachment 2 be approved, numbered, and inserted into the corporate policy manual.
Thank you. Mayor Gina, you're happy to second that?
I'm seconding that. I do understand there's some typos in that policy.
Okay. Certainly, yes. Of course.
My question is I believe that this is part of the issues that have to be resolved by March 1st. So my biggest question is, why was this one the rest of it?
Okay, Mayor. Mr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh dear, I'm just,
Done.
what have I done? Yeah. Mr. McGee, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, so with respect to the March 1st, and I'd certainly be happy to hear about any other requirements. There are a number of requirements under Bill 68, but the municipality is compliant with. So if a member wishes to share, we'd certainly be happy to review. This is the one that was encapsulated in the Municipal Act under Bill 68, and we're quite honestly hoping that it was going to be repealed by the government. The requirement for 444 municipalities to put a policy in place that the government could have easily put the parameters right into the legislation would have been really appreciated and really simple. But in speaking with many members and receiving a number of emails from different colleagues, friends, and past associates asking for contributions to reducing red tape in Ontario government bureaucracy, this would be absolutely one of those areas that would save committee, council, and 44 municipalities a whole lot of time if they had just gone that little extra step and put everything right into the amended municipal act. So we're certainly happy to bring forward anything. If we miss something, we'd love to get on top of it.
So, okay, yeah, so that was just my question. If it's not here, this was the one that is believed to have not been dealt with, right? So the other ones that are that were mentioned, we have a policy in place for them already. That is a question.
So,
It's meant to be a question.
yes.
So in regard, there was a few of them, right, on
So you're referring to like integrity commissioner and registries and...
relationship between members of council and officers, and then the manner the municipality contracts and manages tree canopies, natural vegetation, things like that. They're all sequentially in section 270 municipal act, and they all have that heading about being needed to be enforced by March 1st. That was my question, is whether or not it's believed that we have all those in place, except for the one that the pregnancy. That's the question.
Correct. It is believed that we are compliant and in place. If you look at the procedural bylaw, the council code of conduct, it lays out the council staff relationships, roles, responsibilities. We have a forest management plan that has been in place, has been reviewed and updated in partnership with the county of Renfrew. So we believe we're compliant, and we certainly welcome any comments from members of council, community, and the ministry if they see areas where we can improve.
Any further discussion? No? Seeing none? So we have a motion on the table to receive and recommend the pregnancy and parental leave policy for members of council. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? That's carried. Item 7 on our agenda is closed session. We have none tonight. Item 8 is adjournment. Mayor Dion, would you? At 8:07 p.m. Councilor Rosenberg, 50 seconds.